and not therefore in the tunnels. What struck you about afterwards, what people were saying? I mean, obviously a lot of questions were asked, including, does Giannis believe he has the game ball? He said he did not, so that's part of this too. But did anything strike you as odd or particularly notable when you talked to really every involved person here did speak to the media? So we do have some follow-up, I guess.
Yeah. Now, in terms of that, it was what a wild thing. I guess to start, my understanding, JR, is that there are 3 game balls per game. Officials are given 3 of them. They inspect them. They pick the one. Obviously, if there are issues throughout the game, they're able to swap. So it was sort of a wild thing because, Rick Carlisle said they took this one, and then as that sort of moved on, assistant coach Lloyd Pierce was holding one, and they were sort of insisting it was like a backup game ball, like one of the backups from the bench. Obviously, Giannis did not feel that was the case. He was
adamant that they had the game ball.
Obviously, Bucks employees did get a ball. So we're in the locker room. This is not like off the record stuff. Media was in the locker room. The reason Giannis was asked that question was because when we were in there, he was insisting that wasn't it. And there was a little disagreement among Bucks staff, like, yeah, that's it. And then the funny thing is, we started this with Dame Lillard's, record-setting 3 or top 5 3. No one knows if like the Bucks grabbed the ball for that. Like, did someone grab a ball after Dame made that 3? And not necessarily right after, because it goes in the basket, they keep playing, but like at an ensuing timeout. Was it, you know what I mean? So like, are all 3 balls in play? No one knows. And so, yeah, like, especially if that happened, maybe things were swapped, whatever it was just kind of wild. Like, campaign, he's just like, hey man, wanted that ball. And he's like, I'm following my guy down the tunnel. And, Damian Lillard was just like, I've never seen anything like that before. So, it's definitely a really interesting thing. The Pacers seem to say, hey, we do this. We weren't thinking about Giannis's record, which all makes sense. Like, I don't think – I also don't know if it was super petty, as in, hey, we know that happened for him over there, but let's, like, take this anyway. I don't – but maybe. I don't know. It is the NBA, JR. I mean, you and Matt Velasquez had the petty horn. I mean, maybe you just got to lay on that thing just out of you know what I mean? I don't know. But, so Giannis obviously was just really worked up about it. He was still kind of upset. I mean, on one hand, he seemed to think, Dame should have the ball, and he wanted to give it to Dame, but Dame didn't even know he was going to be top 5 till that night, and he seemed sort of nonplussed by the whole thing.
Yeah.
What a wild end to a historic night for Giannis and Damian Lillard.
Let me put the pieces together as I was observing them from afar. I think Rick Carlisle talked about this basketball and brought the Sheboy thing, and I think you can safely it wouldn't be unfair to argue whether or not that was true, the Sheboy thing, because he already had a free throw, but it is plausible that was.
It's not an official point. Like that 83rd game doesn't count.
No, yeah. I get that, but it was just weird to acknowledge.
Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't matter. And then afterwards, that there's discussion that, I think Rick Carlisle even said that they didn't even have the main ball, but it seemed like he thought initially they had the main ball. So maybe that wasn't clear to him in the aftermath, or he didn't know if his players had taken the ball with ill intent in mind. You see that footage from the Pfizer Forum hallways, and it looks like even if they didn't have ill intent at the beginning, which I do think is true, I don't think they had ill intent at the beginning. Once Giannis started getting really heated and upset about it, then they were like, well, we're not giving him the ball. We're not giving that crazy guy the ball. I mean, that's their point of view. So that's kind of how I think it unfolded. And then Giannis deferring, saying you want to give it to Dame, I think was weird. I think in the moment he was like, I don't want people to think that I'm obsessive about this ball, even though I am obsessive about this ball. So I'm going to say, well, it's for Damian. I think everybody was kind of fibbing a little bit, but not all the way. So that's how it's coming together in my head. I do wonder when the dust finally settles on this, if people will look at Giannis's role here. I mean, I think if Giannis just has some chill, this probably doesn't escalate. It's more, rather than him sort of pointing and gesturing at the assistant coach and then Tyrese Halliburton and then running down the hallway, it's more like, hey, can we work something out here? Like, this was a really big game for me. Can we do a trade of some kind? Like, I feel like that could have happened, but obviously in the competitive environment, that's a hard sell. So I can understand why it didn't go that way. But we had Laddergate now, which was, I think, a completely understood. Like, we explained that it's fine. But Giannis does care about this stuff. Like, he is a passionate guy. He doesn't hide it. He wanted to be All-Star Game MVP, which a lot of people would think is just whatever. Right. But that was really important to him. This stuff is really important to him. And I love that about him. I think it's what makes him endearing. But it also opens the door for stuff like this, where a game ball of all things becomes this cause for head-to-head things. So I think I'm worried people are going to come down on Giannis eventually. They're going to be like, why doesn't the guy just chill out a little bit? This could have been worked out a little differently. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, look, like for stuff like that, the jersey swaps, which obviously aren't heated in any way, but like, I communicate to the clubhouse attendants, hey, run over there and get this or give them this and send that. And I mean, so there's sort of an already established way to communicate between locker rooms.
Yes.
If you want to get stuff. So I think on one hand, I think the context of the game also matters in this moment.
For sure, yeah.
Because, I mean, you got to rewind this back to the first quarter. Giannis Antetokounmpo sends Tyrese Halliburton to the floor with a foul after Tyrese dunks it. Giannis gets teed up. He said post-game, like, teams don't beat the Bucks 2 times in a year, 3 times in a year, 3 times in a row. Like, I think the Bucks were feeling some kind of way about this game to begin with, JR. Going back to Vegas, which we haven't even gotten to that whole post game yet. Going back to November when Giannis dropped 54 in Indiana and they blew a 10-point lead late. So there's the Halliburton thing, and then you get, as the game goes on, the Pacers believe Bobby Portis broke Isaiah Jackson's nose. And Bobby's like, hey, man, I'm just doing a jump hook, man. Like, it had nothing to do with me if I broke his nose. So that happens. And then Aaron Nesmith, hard foul on Giannis. Bobby Portis does the Bobby thing, right? And Campaign gets involved. And the context of the game matters as much with this moment, JR, I think, because, yes, Giannis is passionate. Giannis does care about stuff. Particularly in basketballs, clearly, and because that's how the ladder thing started. Harold. So, but I think it wasn't just this sort of flashpoint moment. I think it was just all of that. Then, like, light went off or whatever when he saw those guys go down the tunnel.